Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got 9 games here for you on Wednesday night in the NBA. In this one, we're taking a look at the battle in New York. The Knicks are taking on Brooklyn in Madison Square Garden. Big favorites in this one on a back-to-back for Brooklyn after a disappointing loss to the Celtics where they got blown out in the second half there. Take a look at all that stuff in there and also have another game video up for you talking about Nate's Celtics and those Cavs, as well as our player props. So make sure to follow along, like, and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com. You can check out all of our great written content up there as the NBA is consuming our site right now. Also have our great odds finder tool up there for you guys. Make sure that you are getting the best odds available to you across all those US sports books, giving you guys bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this slate, and then we'll talk about our game, Knicks and Nets.
Yeah, Kevin Durant's going to debut for the Suns tonight. It looks like they're -10 at Charlotte. Hornets will be without LaMelo. Bulls are -6 at the Pistons. The Sixers -2 at Miami after losing in Philly 2 nights ago to the Heat. Nets +7.5 at the Knicks. They're on a back-to-back here. Totals at 222. Celtics are -5 at home against those Cavs. Yeah, we think the total's a little low at 218. Memphis -10 at Houston. Orlando +7.5 at the Bucks. The Lakers in a pick'em at the Thunder, and then the Pelicans pick'em at the Blazers, who are on a back-to-back as well. Yeah, I mean, the Nets, you don't have to, twist my arm to talk about fading the Nets right now. I think anyone watching the show knows that this is my favorite futures bet. I expect them to continue to regress. And, even though they came out on fire, basically, against Milwaukee that last time, they just collapsed in the second half. And that's all you need to know about a team that just lacks the closers, that's relying on the identity of having 2 of the best closers in the game for a couple of years now, and now they just got Spencer Dinwiddie, and that's about it. So I mean, they go 4 for 19 from 3 in the second half, and we talked in the other video about the Knicks and how they are giving up a kind of a stunning amount of uncontested threes and sort of getting lucky in that regard. So I mean, that could come home to roost in this game. In which case, maybe you do get an over. I'm not going to touch that total because I'm scared of the Nets offense. I think it's one of the worst in the league right now. And Jacques Vaughn is a defensive-minded coach and has been for a while. You've just had, again, 2 transcendent offensive players making their offense go. The Knicks at -7.5 here. I don't know if they're going to have the same intensity they just brought for that Celtics game. This is prime teaser situation for me. I do like the Celtics to win, and I think if you want them at -1 and the Knicks at -3, that's a good way to just coordinate this. Or if you want that Celtics total even lower at 214 and take the over there. But look, the Nets back-to-back situation. I've lost 2 in a row in that spot. I've lost 5 of the last 6 overall with just scoring 106 points per game. Just not going to get it done against, a Knicks offense that you talk about not needing to coach them. Jalen Brunson is just carving people up. I mean, there's nothing Marcus Smart could do with him. I guess you put Mikal Bridges on him, and he might do a slightly better job there. But I mean, he's just got every counter in the book right now. And with Mitchell Robinson back, the Knicks defense is pretty scary as well. I think they're going to win a 7th in a row here. I mean, they just handled the Nets a couple weeks ago, and they could easily do that again.
Yeah, I'm banking on it. So has the folks that have been betting on the Knicks since this opened. Just a few points, but enough to know that no one really has confidence in the Nets, and we don't even know who might be out for them tonight. Ben Simmons, I guess, could play. Yuta Watanabe has been out a bit as well. I don't really know, but I guess I don't really care. It's been bad for the Nets and really good for the Knicks, and that's been this game right here has been in this matchup, and how much better the Knicks are has been the reason, one of the main reasons that we've been so bullish on the Nets and fading them, right, and making futures bets all over the place as much as we can, that they're going to be a part of the play-in. You love that they're not even going to make the playoffs, and to be honest, once they get into the play-in, like if they've got to win 2 games, because we see them losing that that first one, let's say they're a 7 or an 8 seed and they got to play the Hawks or the Raptors or something like that, like, who do you like more? I definitely like the Hawks more than the Nets. And then what you use, the Wizards or the Nets. The fact that we're even talking about it in a way that we're like, that's for sure a toss up, if not slight favorite for a team that has Bradley Beal on it, that can close versus this Nets team, so that's really, it's emblematic of everything we're talking about here in terms of why the Knicks are better than them. The reason I love the Knicks, the reason I love Jalen Brunson is a point guard and an identity. And yes, Julius Randle is awesome, and he's the all-star. Do what you want with that, and has been, incredible even in, all season long. In his last 5 games, averaging 28 a game because he's got a 46-pointer in there, and so playing awesome. But at the end of the game, when you need a bucket, as you said, unassisted field goal, Jalen Brunson maestro. That's what the Knicks are winning on, and that's why they've also in their win streak got the fewest assists per game. They've got the fewest assists overall. They've got the fewest assisted field goals because they don't. It's just not needed. The spacing works the way that they have it right now. Josh Hart doesn't need the ball, and honestly, Josh Hart is what RJ Barrett's ceiling might become if RJ Barrett decides to become a hustle player to that degree, because, he does everything well without needing the ball in his hands. RJ Barrett doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, but the problem is he's not a great spot up shooter. I don't want to get too far into that. He hasn't been as helpful as they need, but the whole point of what I'm making here is 121 points in this 6-game win streak for the Knicks while only allowing 106 a game, and blowing teams out. And that's why even in this trend of them only being 9-11 against the spread when they're home favorites, like in this situation, they're still winning those games by 6.5 points, basically what this spread is at and where it started. And so I still like them to, at the sizzling pace that they're playing, to be able to handle this team. And you talk about the way that Brooklyn scores now. They need to hit threes, and you saw it in the game against the Bucks. In the first half, they were winning by 10 points. They were 8 for 17 from three. In the second half, they lost by 25 points, 67-42, and they hit 4 of 19 threes. So that's it. That's the game plan, right? It's Spencer Dinwiddie occasionally trying to go off the dribble, kicking it out to Bridges and Johnson and whomever else is out there, and just shoot, pull, and pray, and that's the game plan. The Knicks are the number 1 rebounding team in the last 6 and most of the season, or top 3 most of the season. That defensive rating is back to where you want it to be. There was a time maybe 3 or 4 games ago where you could get points in the paint against the Knicks as they dropped down to 14th or 15th in terms of allowing points in the paint to their opponent. Then Mitchell Robinson came right back in the last 3 games, and as his minutes have gone up, so has their ability to stop points in the paint back up to 5th best in the league over their last 6. They are limiting threes. Do what you will with the fact that I call it karma. If James Dolan is going to continue to own the Knicks and ruin our franchise at his every whim whenever he can, then we should be allowed to have other teams not make open threes. I think that's our return on the investment of having a shitty odor, because for the last 3 seasons, uncontested field goals do not go in against the Knicks, especially from deep. In that game versus the Celtics, we know how awful they were from 3, but I will say I think 33% of their shots were uncontested from deep, and they couldn't do anything with that. So, there is a lot to like for the Knicks in this one. I know it's a little bit bigger of a spread, and it's almost like, is this one of those weird games where the Nets might be that frisky team they were a couple times since the trade? I'm not really worried about it. I think even at the end of the game, if this thing is close, the Knicks can get theirs, get their buckets, and get their stops, and then hit their free throws to cover 8 points.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 key categories that the Knicks are very similar to the Bucks, which is exactly why this is the same take as yesterday, saying the Bucks are going to rebound the basketball and score without needing to get assists here. They can win their individual matchups, and that's exactly what the Knicks can do. And the Nets, they just don't have that same kind of firepower. It's also kind of like that, that late revenge factor that the Nets were beating up on the Knicks when they had those 2 guys, and now it's the Knicks' turn. And we just saw how they popped up to beat the Celtics the second time in a row. I think with Josh Hart on the team, your second favorite, Nick, they will continue with that edge and treat this game very seriously, so that it makes me less worried about that sort of frisky game, as you say, where the favorite it lapses a little and says, "Oh, we're playing a cupcake." I think the Knicks will come to play here.
Yeah, they've got to hit 17 threes to win this game. The Nets do, and they need the Knicks to be below average on offense. So all of that taken into consideration, I really like the Knicks here. Maybe you do want to take, if I were going to combine this Knicks and Celtics game, I'd probably just parlay those money lines and feel pretty good about it if I just didn't want the headache of dealing with any of these spreads, but which I would feel fine with just as much as a tease at that point. But might as well take the parlay, probably get you back down to minus 120 on that. Still really like that for both those teams to win. Definitely like the Knicks even more, to be honest with you, as that spread keeps climbing. So hopefully you guys are able to hit it. Another friendly PSA to hit those lines the day before the game when they start coming out, and you can see them and before people start hitting them. So that's all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along and check out the other couple videos we have up for you today. Until we see you next, happy betting.